the Mo Today series on Black Muslim businesses. And we're talking today to my sister Lizette Muhammad. We're going to be talking about etiquette. I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I'm a business and real estate developer, and I developed this brand back in 2009, I think, just as a way to offer mental strategies that I was learning to help people to navigate the world of business. And I ended up being pretty successful at it, and I thought that I would share instead of just kind of holding it all to myself. So one announcement that I need to make before Wa Alaikum Salam and Ramadan Kareem, one of the things that I need to make sure that I make an announcement about is that next week we're going to be on the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel with the show. We're moving closer to this television show, so make sure, I'll come out here and remind you, but make sure that you like and subscribe the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel so that you get access to the shows that are coming up. And when we start to move around the city, you'll be there. You'll be able to see it. Brother Jamil goes, heck yeah. So we're waiting on my sister, Lizette. Let's see. What else do I got to tell y'all a couple of other things if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Sister Lizette's not here yet, but that's okay. So yesterday I did a recording on my YouTube page about the importance of urban historic preservation. I encourage you to check it out. I'm really trying to make this a movement. Okay, there's my sis. Sis, we're gonna give it a couple minutes and give people time to come on, and then I'm gonna bring you in. What I'm really working on is making it so that this is a real estate play that a lot of us want to get into. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm into real estate, I'm selling real estate, I'm a developer. But a lot of times we don't really have a direction and a focus when it comes to our real estate involvement. For myself, I always had a direction and a focus. When I first started to even study real estate, I had an internship as an underwriter, and they gave us a choice. They said you can either do residential insurance underwriting or commercial insurance underwriting. And because I wanted to, and I figured this out really early, this internship was right at the beginning of college. And I said, I just want to build up as much nuts and bolts and information about business as I can. So I chose commercial underwriting. And so I got in and was able to learn about commercial underwriting. And then later, going into auditing, my concern was I didn't want to go into a career choice where I would be sitting at the same desk every day. I figured that would be really boring, and it would be less information that I'd be able to get if I was just stationary. So I wanted to do those kind of things that allowed me to move around. And so when it came to real estate, I've always been very focused on commercial real estate. That was my personal focus. Some people focus on fix and flip. Some people focus on multi-unit facilities. It just depends. But in this particular case, I'm really trying to get us to shift some of our focus into preserving properties that are important to our underserved communities. And I talk about that in that little show that I did yesterday. I encourage you to go over to the YouTube channel. There's a link in the bio to it as well. Click it and check it out, and you'll kind of understand this new craze that I'm trying to get started here and just trying to keep igniting it. So anyway, so next week, the Mo Today show is going to be on the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel. So let me invite my sis in, because we're going to learn some etiquette today, and we're going to learn about her. So we invited her in. I'm really excited about this because decorum and etiquette and how you conduct yourself is really, really, really important. Assalamu alaikum, sis.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you?
Good to see you. Long time no see.
I know. It's good to see you too.
I was just saying how what you're doing is so important to me because part of the mark of a civilized person is knowing how to conduct yourself, understanding those little nuances of how you should
Right.
handle yourself, whether it's email etiquette, conversation, entering someone else's home. And as I
Mm,
travel around the world, keeping those etiquette practices that we learned as Muslim followers of the Honorable
mm,
Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan really set me apart in my travels. So I'm just
true,
excited to talk to
true.
you today about this. And I know you come from a long history of people that understand this type of etiquette. So first, go ahead and introduce yourself and
Yes.
tell the world about your business.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me. I really appreciate it. I started the etiquette probably in, I think it was 2008. But
Okay.
of course, I pivoted in 2021, like the end of 2020, during the pandemic, or at the onset of the pandemic, I should say. I pivoted and I started online because, of course, we weren't moving about,
Mm-hmm.
but wanting to reach, people and
Mm-hmm.
pivoting to the male population as well because I've always focused on the girls.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get inquiries about the young men and boys. So during the pandemic, I pivoted online to be able to reach, many
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-hmm.
and not be so much exclusive, but inclusive.
So at that point, you
So,
were doing etiquette classes like in person.
right, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Up until the pandemic or the start of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me. But I started in 2008. And of course, growing up, as you mentioned, the long line of
Mm-hmm.
the women in my life, which is my mom,
Tell us about
my
it. Tell us
aunt,
about it.
Sister Lawita didn't play. And for those that have ever encountered her knows that, okay? So she taught us, the principles and morals and values that are definitely in line with what we've been taught,
Mm-hmm.
our teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad
Mm-hmm.
under the divine guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So this was our household, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I accepted the teachings for myself
Mm-hmm.
that I encountered my beautiful, beautiful sister Lisa. And every time I have an opportunity to tell her, I let her know what she gave me
Which Lisa
as a new
is this?
Muslim, Sister Lisa R.
Okay.
Muhammad.
Okay.
Hmm. And in my encounter with her, she would always tell me, you really need to teach etiquette. And I would just throw my hands like, oh, Sister Lisa, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So I would just ignore her, although I had a passion for it, but I was giving it to any and everyone that I would encounter. So
Yeah.
she would always tell me, you really need to consider it. And I would just ignore her.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until 2008 that I was laid off my job. And being laid off is when it came full force that this is the direction that I needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what I did. And I started a program specifically for girls. And during that time, starting it specifically for girls, we just took off with it by Allah's grace.
So you just
And
touched on it a little bit, but tell the audience who does not know about
mhm,
your mother and your family and their service to
mhm.
the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, ma'am. So my grandmother, I'll start with my grandmother, Sister
Yes.
Pearl Truex. I, of course, met her. I was only two, I believe, when she was killed in a car crash.
Mm.
And the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, it was the last janaza that he officiated for Sister
Mm.
Pearl Truex.
May Allah be
But my,
her.
yes, may Allah be pleased with her. And I didn't remember my grandmother in that way. But because of my mom, Sister Lawita Muhammad, Sister Wanda Muhammad, that have been staples in our nation of refined women, And Sister Pearl, which was my grandmother, and her girls, she had 5 girls. No, 4 girls and a son. But her 4 girls, Sister Durana, my Aunt Linnell, who recently passed away, my mom, and then again my Aunt Wanda, Sister Pearl reared her girls in such a way that I got to know my grandmother through them.
Yeah.
And what she gave them. So it was truly, truly a blessing. Sister Pearl was one of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad's cooks and worked in his home, as well as Sister Lawita and Sister Durana worked as well. So all of those things that they learned along the way, they in turn gave it to their girls. And I'm forever, forever, ever, ever grateful. I always go back to my grandmother, who's no longer physically here, but the principles and all that she gave her girls, I benefit from those today. And I think a lot, you know?
That's beautiful.
So,
That's so beautiful.
yes,
Because
praise
there's a mannerism, there's a decorum. I know when I was growing up, we used to go to like charm school and we went to finishing school, and people don't do that anymore. And so how are these etiquette classes received now in a generation and in a world that may not think it's necessary?
people do. There's some that only relate to etiquette as a dining aspect of it, or the dining aspect of it. And it's so much more than just knowing what to do with a fork and a knife. It is our encounter every day that we have when we leave our homes. You're not going to get away from it. And so I think today there are a whole lot of people that still realize the value of it and appreciate it. And then there are those that think, I can get along without it. However, we realize just simple, common courtesies that we tend to take for granted. You leave yourself feeling so rewarding and so refreshing when you encounter someone with good manners. We have to just be honest with ourselves and just do some reflecting. When we encounter someone at the store, right? And let's say it's the cashier or someone in the store that offers to assist you, and they're kind about it. And the please and thank you in exchange, it goes a long way. And even at the cash register, you get someone that has a welcoming smile. It goes a long way. So I think that even though there are a lot of people who feel as though it's outdated to engage in proper mannerisms and have proper etiquette, there are still those who can appreciate it because they make it known when you encounter them.
So let's talk, because a lot of people, this is probably so far-fetched to them. You hit the nail on the head, and where I was going, where people think of etiquette just as table manners.
Right.
And for us, we were taught, and even I know, and Sister Lisa just logged on, all praises due to Allah. Thank you, because we both owe a debt of gratitude to her. She brought me in the nation. It was her parents that taught me Nation of Islam etiquette, even down to how we walk as women.
Yes, ma'am.
How much noise we make when we walk.
Yes,
You know,
that's
people
right.
now, and they be trying to walk hard because it make them seem, authoritative.
Right.
But give us some examples of things like that that are outside of table manners. I think a lot of people know you shouldn't be smacking, you shouldn't be slamming. Well, I think you shouldn't.
Right.
You shouldn't be slamming your fork down on the plate and clanking stuff around. I know we got in trouble in our house if you made noises with your mouth while you were eating.
Right.
But what are some of the other examples so that people can understand how critical your course is to just decorum and being an elegant person?
Yes, ma'am. There are a few that comes to, well, I can speak on this topic all day, so I'm gonna try to be brief. Of course, manners are evolve over time, proper manners. And the reason being is because cell phones haven't always existed.
Right.
So there's a time now where we can be in public, right? And I'm sure all of us have experienced this with our cell phones. And we're in public and we're on the phone and everyone can hear the conversation, right? It's not for everyone. So when you think about the utilization of our cell phones, there's etiquette tied to that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I'm going out to eat with friends, and the friends that I'm going out to eat with are important to me, right? And my time and their time as well. Well, when I'm out to eat and I'm engaging with my friends and my phone is constantly ringing, or I take the call, or I'm distracted because I'm scrolling or I'm responding to a text message, it's inappropriate. The person that you invited or has invited you deserves your time. So
Mm-hmm.
you mute your phone or you let them know in advance, listen, I have an important phone call that I need to take. So just give me a few minutes when that call comes in and I'll be right back with you.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't think about that. We are very lackadaisical surrounding the cell phone
Mm-hmm.
itself, where it's on the table while we're eating. It should not be visible. So those are things that can be offensive and we don't even realize it
Mm-hmm.
when we're encountering one another.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one aspect. And then the communication through text messaging,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'll text you. And because it's a situation where I really need a response back, but I text you. But we don't know what the person on the other end of the phone is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I, in my mind, desire a response right away. But is it fair to the person that you text because you're unaware of what they're doing? No, you should pick up the phone and call that person. A lot of us don't necessarily want to interact in that way. So communicating by text is a little bit easier for us, or we may be busy, but you must stop, pick up the phone and call the individual if you desire a response right away.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking on that, I always teach people that texting is supplemental communication. If
Yes.
you work for somebody, and this is a big thing that I always tell people when they come and talk to me about learning how to be like an executive assistant or
Yeah.
a good partner. You, even if that person texts or that person may not have time to make a phone call because they're busy, you're working for them. So instead of you texting who they tell you to talk to, you should pick up the phone and talk to that
Mhm.
person. Because
Yeah.
for me, when someone's working for me, that emotional exchange is important. So I want
Right.
to know, what was the energy? What was the tone like? And texting does
Right.
not convey,
It does not.
it doesn't convey the emotion unless it's used as a supplement. Hey, as a follow up to our conversation,
That's right.
you know,
Yes, that's so true.
and giving
It
that
has been.
salutation before. Some people just text and say, hey, can you do such and such? It's like, well, okay, good morning or good afternoon
Right.
or assalamu alaikum or something.
Hope your day is going great.
Yeah,
Something.
yeah.
Some aspect of wanting to know, or just the genuineness of the person that you're trying to communicate with, and vice
Mhm.
versa, for
See,
sure. Or
I think what
organic,
you're
I should
doing
say.
is a game changer because what I found is because so few people practice this, that
Hmm.
when I practice it, I end up with an advantage, whether I'm presenting
Right.
to a vendor, whether people are interacting with me, whether I'm
That's
trying
right.
to earn their business, or whether or not I'm just um, in a position where I'm socializing with those people.
Right.
Good etiquette, like bringing a gift when you go to someone's house.
Yes, that's right. And it's so true. I always state when I drop things online or etiquette tips is that proper etiquette can open up doors. Some of the best education cannot. And the reason why is because you can have the best of education, but how do you present yourself when you're interacting with those when it comes down to business, whether it's a social gathering? But everyone remembers the interaction of someone that was the most pleasant one, We remember that, but you also remember the one that's not so pleasant. And you'll say to yourself, I don't want to have anything to do with them. Or I'll try to lessen my interaction with them. But why is that? So it is something, and we should do more too of letting someone know what they can improve on. We don't necessarily have to be critical of the interaction, but just say, you will get a lot more if you did this way or that way, but not necessarily jam the person for the improper etiquette because they may not know. But I think we should do more of the opportunity to let someone know what they could improve upon.
Mm-hmm. Somebody
Yes,
just put in the chat that good manners protect good morals. Can you speak on that a
absolutely.
little bit?
Yes. So we know that we have a way which we've been taught, and I thank Allah for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for all that he has given us and been the best example in understanding that good manners protect good morals. So when you think of the interaction between a married couple and let's say a single sister, and I'll give the example, let's say the brother wants to um, do a surprise birthday dinner for his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And in the surprise birthday dinner, he may need to gather some of her good friends and phone numbers to communicate with them or find someone that can do the communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he got their numbers, he makes the communication, or he connects in that communication, and it's over with, right? However, the sister then reaches out to the brother or vice versa in communication, but that was not the original reason for the communication. The exchange of the phone numbers. So when we reflect on how we're going to use the brother or sister's number, it was only exchanged in reference to the wife and the gathering for her birthday dinner or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
or any other function. But
Mm-hmm.
the bottom line is it wasn't for that. So either the brother or sister takes it a step further and begin to communicate with the sister or for the
Mm-hmm.
sister with the brother, it's inappropriate. So if I'm not doing it for the reason that I was supposed to, and I go outside of those parameters, then I'm setting myself up
Mm-hmm.
for immoral behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So that's
that's
one
one
aspect
important
of it.
aspect too, because that level of discretion,
Yes,
because that's what you're talking about, using discretion,
right,
just kind of understanding where things are appropriate and understanding boundaries,
right. That's right.
and just being careful because that's important too. Learning
Yes,
learning discretion, learning not to run your mouth. So
right,
somebody sees you and they find in you a safe space and
right,
communicate with you. That doesn't mean that you go and put the person on blast.
right.
That's
That's
also
right.
part of etiquette.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then there was a point I wanted to make, and this goes back to phones and phone numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but even the sharing of people's phone numbers
Mm-hmm.
with one another without getting their consent. And the only time that it is okay is when it's a public number, meaning on a website, a business card, but you should always be considerate before passing along someone's number
Mm-hmm.
and ask that person if it's okay. It's something years ago we did, but we've moved completely away from it and we'll just send out information, without considering the other person.
Mm-hmm. That is so
Yeah.
important. So very important. And especially when you're in business, you want somebody who's representing you that has this level of sophistication and etiquette and
Yes.
handling,
Yes.
even in terms of how they speak to people, how they present
Absolutely.
themselves, that's what you want to see. Tell me the
Yes.
difference between what you teach brothers when it comes to etiquette and sisters.
Ooh, so for the sisters, there's so much power in our femininity,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Mm-hmm.
softness of who we are that society has just totally thrown away and made us to appear weak in some form if we demonstrate a level of femininity.
Yep.
And so that's the huge difference between the male and the female as far as etiquette. But there are so many other things that the both male and female need to learn. It's not gender specific as it relates to dining, our interactions once we leave our home,
Mm-hmm.
cell phone etiquette, email etiquette, what we post online. It's
Mm-hmm.
universal.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that does separate us between the etiquette and the I don't want to say the boundaries, but our etiquette is the femininity. That I'm not going to teach to the men, but confidence, our posture, both male and female, what it says about us when we are not upright and how we walk in a room,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't understand what body language we're communicating if we're, shoulders are slumped or I'm not sitting up, So it's all, I believe, universal when it comes down to both the male and female. But then, like I said, the femininity part, I'm not teaching that, of course, to the
Right,
men.
right. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of times when people become stars or big, you take a
Mhm.
big corporate job or you become an actor and an actress, they will send you sometimes to a finishing school. So you learn
Yeah,
how to speak, you learn how to
that's right.
handle interviews, you learn how to formulate things, you learn
That's right.
how to even be funny or even laugh because you're not going to laugh the way you might laugh with your family if you're
Right.
in public or with someone else. So there's a certain finishing that oftentimes these artists and stars and athletes even especially
Yeah,
have to go to. And so I
that's
think
right.
what you're doing is so important because this, in my opinion, is something that can be offered to people who are even looking to elevate in their own companies, within a job
Absolutely.
environment, all of that.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I actually went and took a certification to become certified in etiquette consulting. And that was one of the aspects of the etiquette is the business etiquette
Mm-hmm.
and helping companies to be able to grow their business expeditiously because of.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I
it
don't
looks like
think that we
Sister
really.
Lizette froze. I see there's a few.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
No, no.
don't know why we. Well, I do know it's not really magnified, if you will, proper etiquette and proper manners. It's not something that you are, which I don't know why, but it's not something that we're just making a point to make sure that our children are taught these things and implemented at an early age as they once were. But mainly because we're not doing it and we don't see value in it. But as far as, like I said, in businesses and things like that, it's all related. School, business, social activity, all of our encounters require some form of civilization and proper manners and conduct. It's our everyday interactions and how we respect one another and consideration for one another. We just
See,
can't get away from it.
no, you can't. And this is the kind of thing that, for myself, kind of being in that higher level of business and learning, that
Mhm.
so many executives and CEOs take these kind of classes and they watch certain little
Right.
things like you push your chair in when you get up from the table.
That's right.
When you
Yeah.
go into these environments, they're watching you because they want to see the
That's
level
right.
of refinement
Yeah.
that they're dealing with. Are you a management level type of person?
That's
Are you a
right.
direct level type of person? Or are you really an executive that we can trust with $1 million check or a certain amount of money?
That's right. You are absolutely correct. And they do, especially a lot of business transactions and deals are done over dinner, and primarily the reason why is because they want to see how refined you are
Mm-hmm.
before they decide to put you in the position that you may be applying for.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
or even partnership.
That's the reason why when you hear certain negative things come out about these CEOs and CFOs and CMOs, a lot of people
Mhm.
are shocked because they've taken these decorum and these etiquette classes. And so
Right.
people think that's just how they are, but they've actually learned,
Yes, that's
you
true.
know,
That is so true.
to be this way. I always say to people when I train entrepreneurs, and I need to start bringing you in so you can teach them, because when I
Mm,
train
I would be
entrepreneurs, I teach
delighted.
them, you got to figure out who you need to be in order to attract the amount of money that you want. So,
That's
will
right.
somebody look at you and say, I can trust this person with $1 million
That's
or
right.
$2 million? If they study your behavior, can they trust you with something that's sensitive?
That's right.
And this goes a long way in helping you to become just that more trustworthy person, even when we're building our own separate communities.
That's right. That is so true. I absolutely love teaching on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, like I said, I've always worked with the girls. That's always been my passion. But since, having to pivot, I became more inclusive versus exclusive. I would get people all the time. And I'm a mother of sons. So
Mm-hmm.
you would think I would have started there
Mm-hmm.
with the male population, but I gravitated more to the female because we do know that we are the first teachers as women. And it's so important that we teach our children those fundamentals. It's, we can't get away from it.
I
And I
think
know I
that's
keep
a
saying that.
critical aspect of the mind of an entrepreneur that cannot be overlooked.
Right.
And so it makes a difference on whether or not you make a good business partner.
Hmm.
Give you an example, there's a certain etiquette that I practice when I do business with people. So even if I know you really well,
Right.
my business partner on the hospital is one of my best friends. He's my brother, but I
Hmm.
never treat him like that. I
Right.
keep him way up here. I address him as Dr. So and so, especially in public,
That's
just
right.
to keep that decorum and all of that up there. And it builds a certain level of trust, and it
Right.
sets a standard so that he knows, okay, when I'm looking for somebody to do certain things, I'm expecting that same respect and treatment that I get from Sajdah. If I don't get that, that still gives Sajdah or whoever's practicing it that advantage.
That's right. Yes, that is so true. That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, man, this has really been refreshing speaking with you today. I really do appreciate it once again.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing, and I just hope that we can make this with, especially with the Black Muslim Business Directory, and we're
Hmm.
working on doing a television show. And as you know, on many shows, you bring in a consultant. And I think
Yes,
that everybody in business, especially if you're saying, hey, I want to be this multi-millionaire person, you need to take etiquette classes.
you do.
Sometimes
You
people,
definitely do.
sometimes you could be doing business with somebody and there's a change in thought or a change in business,
Right.
but they don't communicate that. Oh, my bad.
Right.
I forgot to tell you that now it's 15 cents uh, a widget instead of 10 cents a widget. Well, you don't think I
Right.
needed to know that? That affects my margins. But if you take
Absolutely.
etiquette classes, you would know that communication is a form of etiquette.
Very, yes, ma'am. It very much so is. And one to your point of the sharing, as far as a business partner, what the thought that came to me is the posting or what we share in the internet world of it's a reflection of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do that, a lot of times, and I don't think how can I say this? Social media is social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And should be used wisely. However, we can be careless with it. So a lot of things that we post will find its way back to us when we're trying to do business. And I don't think we really understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the first thing that people do. I can tell you that in the last 10 years, I have not gotten a deal or put anything together or an award or anything where people have not gone out and taken a look at my social.
Extra. That's right. They want to know what's going on in here. And what we don't realize is when I go and look on that social media page, I can tell exactly what's going on in here because of what has been posted and plastered all over the internet. And we really, really should be mindful of that. It's your it's the real resume.
It is the real resume. Even they do that even before they speak with you. And what's
Sure.
interesting is, and something that I tell people, Sister Lizette, is think of it as an energy.
Yeah.
So you want that energy flow. You want to give when you're in need. So if you're mad about something or you're worried about something, something that you need, then giving to someone, saying please, saying thank you, picking
Yes.
something up for them, holding the door, smiling, that's part of you creating that energy flow of goodness to come
That's
into your life.
right.
Same thing with social media. What you put out there is what people see about you, but it's also an energy flow. So if you're
Right.
constantly putting negative stuff out there, then when I hear your name, I'm associating it with negativity.
That's so true.
That's the
That's such a
energy that
great
I'm
point.
going to give you.
That's so
So
true.
imagine if you got 1,000 people giving you back that negative energy.
Right.
What are you doing
Then
now?
that's what you're creating.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
So you want to
Wow.
send out that love and light because that's what you want, to
That's
come back to you. It's not a place to air
constantly.
your dirty laundry. It's not a place to, I have tons of friends, people I talk to every day, but I don't put their business, on social media. And if they
Right. That's
do something,
right.
I say, hey, do you mind if I repost it?
Yes, I totally agree. And we have to do more developing of relationships in person.
Ooh, it's so interesting you said that because you have all this stuff in social media like the Red Table with Jada Pinkett Smith and her family and all the conversations that they have there. There's some etiquette and decorum issues there. I know sometimes we
Absolutely.
think that we're keeping it real and we're laying it all out there, but there are some real expansions and overflowing of boundaries
Absolutely.
come from leadership in our social circles that make other people think, oh, it's okay. It's
And it's
reality.
not okay. That's right. That is so true. And we really have, but I think the other part that we don't realize that once it gets on social media, that you have opened up that door to step outside of those boundaries, unfortunately. And that's why we have to be careful of what we actually put on social media and what we engage in because we are allowing for people to cross those boundaries because I didn't set any parameters for myself,
I
unfortunately.
didn't teach you how to treat me.
Right. That's right. And it's so important. But how you treat me is definitely how I'm treating myself. So
Mm,
if I'm irresponsible with self, then yeah, it opens up the door for someone else to be irresponsible with me.
mhm.
And that's very key.
What do you think
Yeah.
these reality shows where people have cameras that follow them around have impacted um, the world of etiquette and decorum?
Ratchet. So, no, seriously. We, it has made us to believe that it's okay for the some of the, not some of it, but most of it is savagery. It's savagery what they have shown us of ourselves when it comes down to us in the reality world, because that's not reality. That's for, what do they call it? Views and
Like,
popularity, but
mhm.
it's not reality. And it's unfortunate that we have used that as a standard or a measure or standard to measure. But that's not the case. And we have a way, first of all, that God said there's a proper way of doing everything. So to allow for someone else to put that before us to say this is now the standard in which you can set for yourself, it's not right.
I think it's
And I
interesting
yeah.
because you called it savagery, which I agree. And here's a further take on that. We're talking about decorum and presenting yourself and always giving your best light, best foot forward. But
Right.
if you allow a camera to follow you around and see everything from when you go to the shower or when you go to the bathroom, if you're arguing with your friend or your husband, all up in your inner thoughts, then that invasion of privacy in and of itself is a form of savagery because you never get a chance to really properly present yourself. And then you have somebody
Right.
behind the camera kind of orchestrating how you should be and what you should be doing.
Right.
And then the world thinks, well, this is how I should be acting. But really, those are just probably private moments that that person may not have on a normal basis involved
Right.
in.
That's right. That's right. And we have made it, like I said, to believe that it's okay and it's the norm when it's not the norm. All the things that once were important to our civilization, our family structure, our family dynamics, how we should behave when we're at home and abroad are totally, everything is mixed match, up, down. It's confusion. It's confusion. So the like you said, the following of the cameras and private moments should be no one's business but you and whomever you're in the home with and the God that sees and knows everything.
So what would you
Yeah.
say, last question before we give your business information, what would you say to people, both young and older, who say that what we're talking about is old school? What do you say to those people?
You know, I say this, and this is in all sincerity, is that the mentality that we have developed over the years, I'ma do me mentality, we see where it gets us on a daily basis when we leave our homes. So to think that etiquette and proper manners are outdated somewhere along the line from the time you leave your home, whether if you're going to school, if you're going to work, if you're going to the grocery store, if you're on public transportation, if you're driving in a car, it doesn't matter. Even if you're in a car and you're in a car alone, there's etiquette with driving. So when you think of an encounter that you have and you come across, we don't understand that the violations of proper etiquette causes some serious infractions that sometimes can lead to murderous rage.
There you go.
We see it every day.
Half the
So
stuff
it
that goes down is
goes
because
on.
people feel disrespected.
Absolutely. And all etiquette is fundamentally prescribes our way that we interact and how we treat one another with respect, kindness, and compassion. We can't get away from it. The only way to avoid it is to stay in your home. But even in that, you're going to have some encounter, whether if you're on the phone or not. So we're in constant communication and interaction with people. And I believe that we cannot continue to try to alleviate talking about etiquette and proper manners and continuing to establish it with our children and creating a foundation that they can build upon as they navigate through life. We have to stop that. And we come across, because we're interacting with people, we're going to offend someone somehow if we're not demonstrating proper etiquette and manners. So it's not outdated. It will never be outdated. Times do change, yes, like I said, as cell phones. We didn't have those years ago, but we have them now. So there'll be a constant evolution of things that we have. But at the end of the day, we still have to conduct ourselves in a way that we're not being disrespectful and we're not being offensive to one another throughout our day-to-day function.
And at the end of the day, it's just very attractive. There's
It's
nothing
very,
more attractive than a
yeah,
polished black man with good etiquette
absolutely.
or a polished black woman with good etiquette. It's
That's right.
very, very attractive. So if you want to be attractive, you need to take
Yes.
Sister Lizette's class, bring her to your classroom, to your business, to your company, whether it's YouTube or I don't know if you're traveling in person, but let us know where people can sign up for the courses.
Sure, you can go to our website, www.reetiquette.com.
Okay.
And there we have lots of services that people can book online as well as in person,
Mm-hmm.
but you will not be disappointed. You
Mm-hmm.
will walk away where you have learned some things.
Reetiquette.com. I'm encouraging everybody to go there. If you are a conscious entrepreneur, which is what most of our followers are here on this channel, you need to be taking etiquette classes. This is
Yes.
going
And
to,
I've written a book too
okay, tell us about the book.
on etiquette.
You got a
So I
picture of
did,
it? Can you hold it up?
yes, I have a book.
There it is.
Yes. And it is a reference guide to politeness, everyday etiquette tips, volume 1. So I am putting them in a book so that if you don't have time, you can pick up the book and you can read the book and share it. Share, and share what you learn along the way to be able to help someone else to be refined and polished. Whew, I can go on and
That's
on.
right. Listen, her social media is I am the etiquette queen.
Etiquette Queen. Yes.
And she has a book. That book is a must read for yourself. It should be in your household for your children. And I know we teach our children at an early age, but grown folks need to learn etiquette so they have something to model.
That's right.
Because we
That's
teach them
right.
at 3 and 4 to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, but then we act like savages, so it just goes away.
It goes away. That's right. And then our children fall into that as well. We taught them one way, but then we're a different way. So they're going to definitely be the way that we are the example that we're setting for them. So it should be a positive one.
That's right. You want to make sure that having decorum and conducting yourself a certain way should be the highest level of activity that people can see. So everybody will want to be that way. The children are going to automatically follow if the
That's
parents
right.
and the people in the home, at church, at mosque, at work, at school, the teachers, if they're practicing proper etiquette, they're going to do it because they want
They're
to
going to do
be in.
it. That's right. That's right.
So don't waste all your time teaching your child at 3 to 4 years old how to have etiquette, but you ain't practicing it because you're just
Right.
wasting your time.
You are wasting time. We should all be in the class and
Given
stay in the class because things are constantly not necessarily changing but evolving and we have to be able to keep up with it because you just don't want to be offensive. And like I said, it causes a lot of issues.
Well, what I
Lots of
would like to do, Sister Lizette, I want to make sure everybody gets your book and goes to her website, readetiquette.com, and
yeah.
take the classes. But what I'd love to do is for us to do like a once a month talk.
Oh,
And
let's do that. I would love
and
that.
we talk about whatever hot topics are out there. You know, it would have
Okay.
been a great time after the big Will Smith slap for me and you to come on and have this
Yeah.
conversation. So let's plan that a month out.
Okay.
I know Sister Rahima is on here and she does the booking and scheduling for me. But
Okay.
Rahima, if you're listening, I'll remind you later, make sure you book Sister Lizette in a month. And we're going to come back and talk about whatever hot topics. And we'll just have a talk once a month so that we
Okay.
get this
That's
out there
great.
and
Yes,
people
ma'am. I
understand
would
that
love
this
that.
is important.
It's very important. And thank you so much for having me on here. I really do appreciate it.
I wish you the best of luck in your business. May Allah
Thank you.
be very pleased with everything that you're doing. Please give your family the greetings for me.
I sure will. Thank you. Thank you. And may Allah continue to bless you, sister, and all the good works that you're doing. I
Praise
appreciate
Allah.
you.
We're going to keep lifting Sister Pearl 2X up too.
Yes, yes. Sister Pearl. Mm-mm-mm. It's a blessing. I pray that I leave the mark that she has left.
Yes, well, she's in you. So praise be to Allah. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Sister Lizette. Stay
Thank
tuned. We're going to
you.
come back once a month and we're just going to have a whole etiquette and decorum show. I'll call you,
Yes.
Sister Lizette. We're going to figure this out.
Okay. Take care.
All right.
Okay.
Peace and blessings.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum
And
salam.
Ramadan Mubarak, everyone.
Ramadan Kareem.
Mm-hmm.